Hi, Statesmen Nation. I'm here with Coach Christiansen of our men's lacrosse team for a little bit of a season preview. Your guys' season is right around the corner. Getting forward to getting into that action. So let's start off with just a little recap of last season. Talk about what you saw that you guys did well and what you guys saw that you guys want to work on going forward.
Yeah, I think last season was our second full season of competition, and that was really about establishing an identity as a winning program. We went 11-5. So our second winning season, and our two full seasons of competition. So that was really what last year was about. Was, I think, establishing that winning culture, that winning identity, and then also, I think a big thing was getting a lot of our growing pains out of the way. It was the first time we'd had certain types of games, big time games where there are some nerves, there are some expectations. Being ranked for the first time last year, there were some expectations, and sometimes we rose up to those expectations, and others we kind of fell flat a little bit. So I think last year was really important for going through through a lot of those learning curves, and so I think that was really kind of the overall arching view of last year.
Well, Coach, you guys have a lot of returning faces coming back this year, but let's look at the recruiting side. Did you guys bring in any new players to fill some gaps you guys found last year?
Yeah, this recruiting class, might have been one of our best. We've had, 4 great recruiting classes, and this one was up there with all of them. Maybe the best in some ways, in particular. As you mentioned, the great thing is we returned a lot of guys, so we didn't really need to have replacements per se. But it was very intentional with the recruiting for this past class, so we did bring in a few transfers. We're not really a transfer program. We want to bring in high schoolers. We want to develop them. We want that type of culture. But we did bring in a few transfers to fit into certain places defensively in our midfield, and those guys are going to make big impacts, immediately. And then on the high school side of guys coming in, we have some really, really solid players that are, going to do a lot of great things over their 4 years. And there's a few that, will make immediate impacts, right out of the gate.
Well, looking at those familiar faces, let's do a little breakdown of the roster we're going to be looking at this year, starting at the attack position.
Yeah, so at attack, we return all 3 attackmen. So you have Boston Romero coming back. He's been, one of our leading scorers the past 2 seasons. He'll be back. He might be playing in a little bit different of a role than we've seen him the past few years. But he'll, continue to be, one of our leading scorers.
This is the year. This is the breakthrough year. We're getting older. We got some talent on the upper side, experience. Got everything. The guys are coming together. The practice has been going well, and I think this is the year that, if we're going to be great, this is the year to do it, and I think it's going to happen. This year, the past 2 years, I was playing attack, so I was mainly on the offensive end, and they are switching me over to midfield so I can go up and down the field more and trying to utilize more of my athleticism. So that's what we're doing, and hopefully I think it'll work well.
Then you have Brady Trelaw returning, and I think he's poised for his biggest season yet, and he's just been very steady and consistent for us. During his time here, and I think he's ready to have a big breakout season. And then obviously we've got Breck at attack, and he should be coming back and only continuing to get better after leading us in points and being kind of the freshman of the year last year. And then we do have some young guys at the attack that will contribute right away.
Yeah, definitely a strong, very strong at that position last year. Excited to see what you guys are going to do this year. Now moving on, how about at that midfield? Who do we have coming back?
Yeah, midfield, we're one of probably the deepest teams in the country midfield-wise, and so really the need we have there is for guys to step up and really be alphas or the stars there in the midfield. We've been very consistent, we've been very good there, but we haven't been great yet, and we have all the capability to do that. So we have Tim Pennington coming back in the midfield. Last year we moved him from attack to midfield right before the season, and he responded really well, with 24, 25 goals, led the team in ground balls, and he was honorable mention all conference. So I think having a full off season in the midfield, getting in all those reps, we should see him take a big step forward. Colin Boliva is there in the midfield as well. and he had a little bit of step back in production from his freshman to sophomore year as far as like the numbers go, but I think his impact was more than we really realized last year. So I think those numbers should start to come up with what his impact really is. Eli Dillon there in the midfield as well. Nate Blazingame, those are just a few of the names I think returning there. And then we do have, one of our transfers who've come in who's going to make a big impact in the midfield.
And then lastly, looking through your guys' defense and your goalie, who are those guys that are going to be holding up?
So that'll be where you have probably a little bit more change than the other positions, right? Like attack and midfield, you kind of know what we are, and then there's just a few supplements. So starting at the LSM position, we returned Marcus Davis. He was an all-conference LSM last year as a freshman. We're going to be utilizing him in a few different ways, both as an LSM and as a short stick defensive midfielder, because we have a freshman who came in, Aiden Johnson. He's playing really well at the LSM position, so he's going to make a big impact there. At the defensive midfielder position, we have Riley West returning, Jose Davis there, Hylas Cole, Johnny Bell. So those are just a few of the returners. And then we've got some young guys too, and as I mentioned, Marcus Davis, he's going to be playing there as well. So we should have more depth there, a little bit more speed there at the defensive midfielder than we have had, and that's going to be big for us to get more speed into that. And then at the close defense position, we do return Chris Lauderdale and Pete Heavenstreet there. They've been great for us, throughout their tenure. Chris is looking the best he has throughout his time. He really transformed his body over his first few years, and he's looking very explosive and fast and disruptive as a defender. Pete, started his first 2 years, took a few lumps later on in the season last year, kind of some of those sophomore slump things. But I think he's come back hungry and ready to prove himself there. And then we have a lot of newcomers on the defensive front there. Brad Howell, he's poised for a really big breakout year, probably our most disruptive defender. And then you also have a few transfers and young guys on the defense that are, I think going to make big impacts as far as the way we want to play. We finally feel that defensively we kind of have the horses and the type of athletes that we need. And then at the goalie position, Eric Garrigan is going to be our starter. He's been here from the get-go. We did graduate Jeremy Smith last year, but Eric's been pushing Jeremy that entire time. He has great experience. He's gotten really good experience over these first few years. He had a great fall, and so he's poised, I think, to really step up.
Out off the field especially, the team gets along really well. Everyone's friends. It's not really cliquey. It's not exclusive. On the field, defensive side of the ball is where I specialize, but everyone really likes each other. We work together. We make each other better, which is really cool of an atmosphere to have, I think. Last year I was the backup goalie, and this year I think I'm going to be taking a bigger step in the amount of games that I have to play in. So there's a stress on it, but it's exciting. I'm excited for this season.
And then our two young guys and behind him in goal have really shown well. We're probably further along than we anticipated. So that's at least reassuring that we've got some depth there.
Well, I know we're all excited to see those guys out in the field together. And with a new season for you guys, also comes a new conference. You guys joined the majority of Statesmen athletics in the Heart, moving from the KCAC. Tell us a little bit about what that means for your schedule.
Yeah, so it's exciting to join the Heart and have kind of be in the actual school's conference. There are some difficulties that come with change, right? Anytime you have change, there's some difficulties that we have to work through. But the biggest plus of everything is that we have more flexibility with our scheduling, which also means more work on the coaching staff to go out and schedule all these games. But what that means is we have probably the toughest schedule in the country. At a minimum, top 3, top 5 as far as strength of schedule goes. So the rankings came out today, and we play 9 teams that are ranked or receiving votes. And I don't think anybody has more than 9 or 10. And so that's going to give us a chance to go out and prove everything on the field. And it's hopefully not leave it up to the voters, because voters are human and make mistakes.
Yep. Now we've got a lot of spring sports this year that have some really tough schedules coming into 2023, so that's going to be exciting. And lastly, Coach, last year you guys made the KCAC quarterfinals where you fell to Columbia. Just talk a little bit about your goals, what you guys are trying to reach throughout this season.
Yeah, I think, priority number one is to win the Heart. It's year one of the Heart. The door's open. We return, pretty much everybody. As we mentioned, we bring in a lot of talent. It's there for the taking. We play a tough schedule to get us prepared for that. And so that's the goal. Go win the conference, and try not to leave things up to voters and leave things up to people's perception. Because that's, I think, the beauty of it. The conference is set up nicely. Last year, one of the disadvantages of the KCAC was, we were starting conference play in February, March. And, our season was literally done and decided by March 12th. Yeah. Because, we dropped a few conference games, whereas this year we don't even start conference till April. So that's huge. We can actually go out, test ourselves, make some changes, tweak some things, and then get prepared to make a run in conference.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thank you, Coach. That's all we got for the season preview, Definitely keep an eye out. Men's lacrosse starting off right around the corner. Make sure you guys go out and support their games. Going to be an exciting season. Yep. Sounds like an exciting team. Should be fun to watch.